One, two, three. It's on. Okay, so today our speaker is C.H.O.I.C.E.S, and I heard him about 5 or 6 years ago in Kelowna, and I'm really excited to hear him again. His motto is choices. Choosing him over I changes every situation. Help me welcome C.H.O.I.C.E.S.
This morning. Did everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. How many of you have made a bad choice in life? If you don't have your hand up, I'm going to have to call you a liar. Because every single one of us has made a bad choice. How many of you have made a choice in life where from that point forward, from that one choice that you made, who you thought you were going to be, who you are today, how people view you now, is someone totally different because of one choice that you made? Are there a few of you? And it can be good or bad. I made a choice on my 21st birthday where I decided to do exactly what the world expects you to do. And what is that? Drink, get drunk, kind of that passage into manhood. That's what the world tells you. I should go around and share my story, not so it can be a look at me, look what I've been through, look what I made it through. But my hope is that we can understand how important every single choice is that we make. Not only the big ones of what career are we going to choose after high school, or who are we going to marry someday, not only those big ones, but every single choice that we make can have a huge impact, even the things that we say. If 10 of you told one person, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're worthless, nobody likes you, what kind of an impact can that have? I mean, it's just words, right? Everything that we say and we do can have a huge impact, and that's my hope, is that we can understand that just a little bit more. So here it was, February 6th of 2008, my 21st birthday. I had it all planned out. I had 5 friends that had a house at the University of Iowa. I was going there, leaving my keys there. We were within walking distance to all of the nightclubs, bars downtown Iowa City. So I went to the first, started drinking at about 7 o'clock. I got to the house, went to the first bar at about 10:30 that night. Went to it's called the Vine. Had some wings, had some more beer. Then my brother and buddies lined up 5 shots in front of me. I took 5 shots. 2 girls in the booth next to me, they heard that it was my birthday, so they wanted to help me celebrate. So they each went and bought a shot and took a shot with me. So I had about 7 shots in about a 10 to 15 minute period after drinking for about 3 hours. From there, we went to the first nightclub in downtown Iowa City called Brothers. I remember walking in, stuck out my wrist to the doorman and said, hey, it's only a half hour until my 21st birthday. Just give me the 21-year-old band and let me celebrate. He said, okay, here you go. He put the band on my wrist. I walked in. About 20 foot inside that bar, I was a perfect picture of the inside. The bar was on the right, the dance floor was on the left, pool tables kind of in the back on the left, regular dining tables up front. I had this perfect snapshot picture of the inside of this nightclub. But from that 20 foot inside the door, I don't remember going anywhere. I don't remember talking to anyone. I don't remember anything until the next morning I wake up. The next morning I woke up exactly where I was supposed to be. Of those 5 friends, one of them only had class on Monday and Tuesday, so he went home for the rest of the week. This was a Wednesday night. I asked him if I could stay in his room. He said, yeah, that's fine, go ahead. So I wake up and I'm in his room, but I start looking around and my clothes aren't there. I have on my underwear and a tank top, my jeans aren't there, my button-up shirt, my coat, my socks, none of it's there. So I opened up the door to the living room. One of my buddies was heading to class. He said, hey, do you know what happened to my clothes? And he just kind of looked at me and chuckled. He's like, you don't remember? I'm like, remember what? What are you talking about? It's like, we lost you for an hour and a half last night. And when we finally found you, you were walking down the middle of the street with those 2 coats on. You had one coat on his pants, one leg in each armhole. I'm sure it's a funny sight. And then one on normal. And that's how we found you after an hour and a half. I said, okay, so I remember going into Brothers. What happened from there? What did we do after that? They said, well, we went to like 5 different nightclubs that night. We ended up back at Brothers. About 1:30 in the morning, started heading back to the house. There's pictures of me, my brother under one arm, friend under the other, and I kind of got that. I know probably some of you have seen drunk people where their eyes are open, but there's just no one home. They can't really do anything. That's what these pictures look like. And we're walking home, and they said all of a sudden I just threw them off me, and I took off running. Took off running. My brother did the nice brotherly thing like any older brother would do for the younger brother. I mean, it's beginning of February, snow on the ground. So he chased me and stopped me. He pushed me in a snowdrift. I got back up and I took off running from there again. And at that point, I was on Van Buren Street, right in the middle of the block. At the end of that block was Bowery Street. My friend's house sat right there at the end of Van Buren, where Van Buren ran into Bowery Street. That's where my friend's house was. And I was in the middle of the block of Van Buren. So I was a half a block away from my friend's house, headed straight there. My brother figured, I'm not going to chase him anymore. So he went back and met up with everyone else, and they went the original way. They were going to go back to the house. They get there, start looking for me. I wasn't there. Started calling me on my phone. They started looking for me at last place my brother had seen me. They couldn't find me. About 30 calls between all my friends and me that night. And each call they said they'd maybe get one word that made sense to them. They were able to put everything together. They figured out that I was in somewhere. They convinced me to come out of wherever I was so they had a better chance of finding me. And then through me handing my phone to people on the street, they gave those people directions where to send me. And that's when they finally found me an hour and a half later, walking down the middle of the street with these 2 coats on. So they're telling me all this, and I'm just kind of like, and that's a crazy story. I lost my clothes, I lost my wallet, that stuff is replaceable. I'm safe, everyone's safe, or, it was a good night, it was good. Didn't think much of it. This is Thursday morning now. I went back to my apartment in Wilton for cheaper rent. I shoveled the sidewalks whenever we had a snowstorm. I hadn't done that yet, so I shoveled the sidewalks in my apartment complex. My sister called, had me over for a birthday meal later on that night. Got back to my apartment about 10 o'clock. My brother and I watched a couple movies until about 1 o'clock in the morning. Went to bed. Next morning I wake up to a knock at my door. And this knock wasn't just a, hey, is anyone there? This knock was someone pound on the door 5 or 6 times and stop. And then pound on the door 5 or 6 times and stop. And finally the 3rd time I'm kind of in that in between. I'm hearing things, but it's not really registering. So I'm still kind of sleeping. Finally the 3rd time I realized, hey, there's someone at the door. You need to go answer the door. So I go out to the living room. I open the door. And here's this 6'8" guy standing at the door. He said, "Are you Curtis Fry?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Well, I'm so-and-so with the state police," as he pulls back his coat and shows me the badge on his hip. "Were you in Iowa City here a few nights ago?" I said, "Yeah, I was there celebrating my 21st birthday. What's going on? What's this all about?" "Well, did you lose anything?" I said, "Yeah, I lost my clothes and my wallet." "Did you guys find him? Is that why you're here?" I said, "Well, would you be willing to go to the police station and answer a few questions?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine, but what's going on? What is this all about?" "Well, they know a little bit more there. Let's just wait until we get there." Okay? So I went, got dressed for the day, went out to my truck, and I followed them a half hour to Iowa City to the police station. We went inside. They take me in a room, sit me down. and they walked out. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go back and tell you guys a little bit about who Curtis Fry was growing up. At age 3 and a half, my parents moved down to Missouri to work at a children's boys' home, a Christian boys' home. They worked there for about a year and a half, and then they felt God calling them back to Iowa to start a boys' ranch here in Iowa. So from 3 and a half on, my life has been in ministry, in Christian ministry. I was at church every Sunday. I was at Awana's every Wednesday. My life was at church. My life was centered with God as the center. I was homeschooled until 8th grade. 8th grade, I went to high school. I was a kid that was called the Jesus freak, the Bible beater, the weirdo, so to speak. But I was okay with that, because I was okay with who I was in Christ. It didn't matter what other people thought. I knew who I was. I knew my identity was in Christ. So basically what I'm trying to tell you guys is, I was any one of you. I was any one of you sitting out here. And you're sitting here saying, this is a crazy story. It's 1 in a million. You're right. It is. But I was one of you. I was one of the millions sitting out here. I went through high school. I played sports, football, baseball, and golf. I got recruited to play football by St. Ambrose in Davenport. Through high school, let me back up a little bit. I was part of, you guys have Young Life around here? Fellowship of Christian Athletes. You guys have that, FCA? So Young Life is a lot like Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's just a group that gets together on Thursday night, have a lot of fun, play some games, sing some songs, have a little devotional, and the idea is to get us to go to camp during the summer. And so I was part of the Young Life group. Through high school, I was part of the core group that met every Thursday morning before school for a Bible study and to plan that night's events. I was very involved in my youth group. Like I said, I wasn't just faking it, so to speak. My life was about serving God in my home, at school, wherever it was. So here I am, I go to college. I love playing football, but I had no idea what I wanted to do for school. I played football for 1 semester, went to school. Didn't see the point of paying the money just to play football when I wasn't getting anything out of school. I've always been a hands-on person, construction, things like that. So I decided to quit college. I started working full-time. At that point, I started helping out as a leader at the Young Life program that I was a part of in high school. September of 2006, my sister worked at a children's home down in Texas. She called and said there's an opening, that they needed a young man to come down and kind of be the older brother role model for the guys there, and then also help out on the ranch. So I jumped at the opportunity. I moved down to Texas, worked at Still Creek Children's Home. About 3 months later, my dad called, and they had just opened up a dairy operation at the ranch here in Iowa. And he felt like he was giving too much to the farm and not enough time to the boys, which is where his ministry was. It was to the boys. That's what God called him to do. So he asked if I'd come back and help out on the ranch here in Iowa. So I moved back home, started working for my parents, started again being a volunteer leader for that Young Life program that I was a part of in high school. And I keep bringing that up because July of 2007, this would be the summer before my 21st birthday, I had the opportunity to take 9 high school guys out to Colorado to Young Life Camp. And that week, out in Colorado, that week was the best week of my life as far as most memories. Well, I better back up there. Best week was actually marrying my wife and having our kids. So I'll get in trouble. But no, that week was just, it's full of memories, good memories, fun times. But more importantly than that, that week was the closest I ever felt to God. I mean, when you're out in the middle of the Rocky Mountains and there's a lightning storm, going on around you, there is no way that you can deny that there is a God and that He created this place for us. The problem was when I left camp that week, I got back home, and my best friend in high school, strong Christian guy, he went off to Moody Bible Institute to pursue a music ministry. I never replaced him with anyone, with an accountability partner. And so I got home from this camp, and I started just kind of going through the motions of being a Christian. I still looked like a good kid from the outside. I was still going to church, opening doors for people, whatever it may have been. But it didn't mean anything to me. And so I started hanging out with guys from high school, and, well, there's this party tonight, so I started going to the parties. And at first I was being the designated driver. I was going there, wasn't drinking, making sure people weren't doing anything stupid, driving them home if they needed. In fact, a couple of parties got busted, and it just so happens that the chief of police of my town is also the pastor of my church. So he came in and was like, "Curtis, what are you doing here?" "I'm not drinking. I'm just here making sure people aren't doing anything stupid." And of course, breathalyzer, had to do all that, and wasn't drinking. But then, since I didn't have that accountability partner, since I never replaced my old accountability partner with someone new, which, let me stop there. An accountability partner. Do you guys know what that means? Someone that's willing to slap you upside the head if you're starting to make bad choices. Someone that's willing to say the hurtful things to you, if need be. Someone that's there to encourage you. Every single one of us needs someone to come alongside us. So I encourage you, if you don't have someone you can trust and say, "Hey man, I'm struggling in this area. I need you to hold me accountable. I need you to come alongside me and challenge me." If you don't have an accountability partner, every single one of you needs someone to grab onto. So since I didn't have that accountability partner, from going to the parties led to, well, we're going to go to so-and-so's house and we're going to play Xbox all night. And they're having some drinks. I can have a beer. It's not going to hurt anything. So I have a beer. Mind you, I was still under the legal age, so there was something wrong with that. But that just continued to progress. I continued to allow Satan to get just a little more grab on my life and keep pulling me. And I kept going with him. And that continued to progress until the night of my 21st birthday, where I decided, you know what? I've been this good kid my whole life. I've done all this stuff good. I deserve one night to just go and let it all out. So God, you can stay here tonight. I don't need you tonight. I'm going to go and do what the world expects you to do and live my 21st birthday like they say I should. Just this one time. I'll come back and get you. But I deserve one night because I've been such a good kid my whole life. That was my thought process. Have you guys heard of the phrase red flags? Roadblocks? Things that happen for a reason? That night before I went out to my parents' house to get my birthday present from them. We just had the worst winter storm of 2008. We had about 10 inches of snow that year. That snow. Went out to my parents. Got stuck in the lane. I had a 2-wheel drive truck. Dad's 4-wheel drive truck wouldn't pull me out. Tractor wouldn't pull me out. An hour and a half later, had to go get the neighbor's front wheel assist tractor. Finally got me pulled out. That was red flag number 1 for me. I had a 2-wheel drive truck. I didn't need to be out there. Just had a bad snow. But I ignored it. The next one that came up was my dad was really good about when I became a man, so to speak, and moved out on my own, got a job. He kind of turned off that switch of being a parent and turned on the switch of, hey, I'm here if you need me. He basically said without saying it, Curtis, I've done all the parenting I can. I've brought you up in the way that God has taught me, has told me to bring you up. And now the choices you make are between you and God. You're a man now. I'm here if you want the wisdom from the wise, as the word says. Seek that wise counsel. I'm here if you need it, but I'm not going to interject unless you ask. That's basically what he said to me without actually ever saying it. So that night before I went out, after he pulled me out, he'd come up to my truck window and he gave me some advice without me asking for it. And his advice was simple. Curtis, I don't know why you're doing this. Things can happen when alcohol is involved. That was as simple as it was. And my response, yeah, whatever, Dad, I'll be fine. Just this one time. He knew what I was doing. I told him what I was doing. Red flag number 2. Number 3 was I got on the interstate. It normally takes a half hour to get from Wilton to Iowa City. There's 3.5 to 4 inches of ice across both lanes. Traffic was moving about 25, 30 miles per hour. It took me an hour and a half to get to Iowa City. Again, I shouldn't have been out there. Guys, we need to listen to the red flags in life, whether it's weather-related, like it was for me, or whether it's an accountability partner saying, hey, what are you doing? Wake up here. Or maybe it's a parent saying, hey, maybe you need to think twice about going over there. I don't know that that's such a good idea. Whatever those red flags are, we need to pay attention to them. So here I am now, I'm sitting in the police station. The same 2 officers that come to my door, they come back in the room, and they start asking me these questions about who I was growing up, about my friends, about sports, about jobs I had, why I moved to Texas, why I moved back, why I moved here, why I moved there. They just kind of got to know me a little bit. And they said, okay, take us through Wednesday night when you left Wilton to sit here right now. Take us step by step, everything that's happened. So I took them through up to that point of walking into Brothers of what I remember, and then I told them what my friends and brother had told me happened after that. Took them through it a couple of different times. The whole time I'm asking, what's going on? What is this all about? Did you guys find my clothes? Is that why I'm here? Like, what's going on? And they would just ignore me and keep asking questions. Well, finally, after about an hour and a half of questioning, they left the room, and they come back in. They said, well, we found your clothes and we found your wallet. And they were in this apartment in the bedroom. And there's a man in the bathroom. I said, what do you mean there's a man in the bathroom? They said, there's a man dead in the bathroom. At that point, it was literally like someone lit a bomb off behind me. My whole body just started shaking uncontrollably. I started bawling. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to react. But at that point, I knew that there was someone there that I could count on. Even though I hadn't had a sincere relationship with him in the recent past, I knew that I could count on him to be there with his arms open. And so I started praying. And at that point, my prayers were, God, show me what happened so I can tell them the truth. Lord, you know this isn't me. This isn't something that I would ever do. God, forgive me for whatever I did do, but God, you know my heart. Never been in a fight in my life. In high school, a kid hit me in the face 10 times. And I stood there and said, "Are you done yet? Feel better?" Even in the face of aggression, it isn't me. And now they're saying that I beat this guy to death. At that point, I didn't know much about the law besides what I've seen in movies. They'd read me my rights at the beginning. At this point, when I realized how serious it was, I asked for an attorney. About a half hour later, the attorney showed up. Police officers come back in the room. They stand me up, turn me around, put handcuffs on me. Say, "Curtis Fry, we're charging you with second-degree murder for the murder of Mr. Patrick McEwen." They take me downstairs, put me in the back of the police car, and take me to jail. I know you guys are sitting here, man, that's a crazy story. That's 1 in a million. That would never happen to me. Again, I'm going to repeat this. I was any one of you sitting out there. How many other things could have happened that night when I said, "God, stay here. I don't need you tonight"? How many other different things could have happened? I could have gotten a car. I could have walked across the street and got hit. I could have made a choice with a girl that I regretted later. So yeah, this particular event is a 1 in a million. But when we say, "God, I don't need you," it only takes one choice to change our life. Our choices affect more than just us. Because of that one choice that I made that night, the original choice of saying, "God, I don't need you," and to go and do something that I knew that I shouldn't do. Because of that choice, a 75-year-old man, Mr. Patrick McEwen, lost his life that night. Because of that same choice, Mr. Patrick McEwen's family and friends, they didn't have a family member anymore. They didn't have a friend that they could talk to. Because of that same choice here, my parents they run this Christian boys ranch to help troubled boys so they don't end up in prison. And now their son is sitting in jail, charged with second-degree murder. Imagine what that did to them emotionally. And we can't even raise our own son. We're helping these boys. This isn't right. The negative media attention that brought to them. Our choices a lot of times affect us the least amount. The choices that you make today are going to affect you now. They're going to affect you 5 years from now. Well, some of those choices you make today are going to affect your future spouses, your kids. Guys, what are we allowed to fuel our choices? What are we allowed to fuel the choices that we make every day? Peer pressure? Popularity? Maybe the attitude that we wake up with that day. Maybe it's different day to day. Or maybe it's even something's happened in our life. A hard time in our life. An illness. Even a death of someone close to us. Maybe a divorce of parents. And we allow that event in our life to control who we are today. Without maybe even realizing it, but we're almost so mad at that one point in life that we are living life now because we're upset about why that had to happen in the past. I know that happens. What should we allow to fuel our choices? 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. That means everything that you say, everything that you do, you're supposed to take it to Christ first. Another way I like to look at it is when you're making that choice, is God standing back there saying, yeah, that's my son. That's my daughter. Or is he standing back here when you make that choice with his arms open wide? Maybe a disappointed look on his face, but yet his arms open wide. Saying, I still love you. Choose me next time. I'm proud of you. I had another big choice to make after I'd been sitting in jail for a while. I've been praying every night, God, forgive me for whatever happened. Forgive me for whatever I did to Mr. McEwen. God, you know my heart. You know I wouldn't mean it. I just continued to pray that same prayer over and over again. Until one night I was praying the prayer and it was like, God said, Curtis, I forgave you the first time I asked. Or I forgave you the first time you asked. And I've just been standing here with my arms open saying, come back to me. Give your whole life to me. I don't just want part of you when it's convenient. I want your whole life. Every step you take. And that night when I realized that God forgave me and still loved me, I was able to do something that every single one of us in this room needs to do. I was able to forgive myself that night for what I did to Mr. McEwen. Each and every one of us has something that we look back on and say, man, I wish I wasn't a jerk over there like that. That wasn't right. Or man, I made this one big choice in life and there's no way that I can ever make up for that. Understand this, that God is standing there saying, I still love you. I still love you. Give your whole life to me. And if God is able to forgive you, then who are you to say, no, I can't forgive myself though. I'm terrible. I did this bad thing. I can't forgive myself. Who are you to say to God that, man, I'm bigger than you? That's basically what you're telling him. If you understand that God forgives you, and he's as holy and powerful as he is, but yet you're saying, no, I can't forgive myself, but I can't let that go. Forgive yourself. Give it to God. He's standing there saying, I love you. I want all of you, the good, the bad. I'll take it all. So that night my prayer changed from, Lord, forgive me, to actually a song came to mind. Lecrae, Christian rapper. Has any of you guys heard of him? He's got a song called Send Me, I'll Go. And it's out of Isaiah 6:8 where God is talking to Samuel. God says, who can I send and who will go in my name? And Samuel says, here am I, send me, I'll go. And so that became my new prayer. Lord, here I am. Send me where you want me. Let me tell you, if you're not ready for God to answer prayer like that, don't pray. Because for the next 2.5 years, mind you, this while I was in jail, the next 2.5 years, I went into prison. I went through trial while I was in jail. Spent 13 months in jail, went to trial. The judge dropped it down from a second-degree murder down to a 10-year manslaughter charge. So I spent a total of 15 months in county jail, 2.5 years in prison, 5 months in halfway house, and then the last 7 months of my time was on parole. Guys, sometimes things happen in life that we don't have complete control of. Kind of like I was saying before, illnesses, deaths, divorces. We don't have control of a lot of those things. How are we supposed to react? What are we supposed to do during those hard times? Are we supposed to just sit back and let enough time pass, and then after enough time passes, then we can start living again? Is that how we're supposed to react in those hard times? James chapter 1 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And perseverance, once finishing its work, makes you mature and complete, lacking nothing." That verse doesn't say if you face trials. It says when you face trials. We will face trials in life. And it's through those times if we're willing to say, "God, I can't handle this. This is nothing that I can do. I can't make it through this." But we're willing to say, "But I know you can. And I'm willing to trust you. And God, I want to step up during this hard time and glorify your name." And if we're willing to take ourselves out of it and realize that life isn't about us, but life is about serving God, and it's maybe that hard time that God is going to use to bring someone else to Christ, we need to step up. Say, "God, here I am. Use me in this, even though it's hard. Even though I'm weak, you're strong." I wish I could take back the night of my 21st birthday and what happened to Mr. McEwen. I wish I could take that night back. But everything that I've been through since then, being in jail, being in prison, I will never give it back. Because it was through that hard time, through that extremely hard time in life, that I became who I am today. That I became a man that was sold out for Christ as opposed to just going through the motions of being a Christian. That I became a true follower instead of just saying, "Yeah, I believe in God." Guys, I'm here to tell you that no matter what you've done, no matter what you've been through, God is standing there saying, "I love you. I love you. I love you." To every single one of you. And don't only take that from me, but the Apostle Paul. His name was Saul. What was his job as Saul? He went around and persecuted Christians. He was against everything that Christ was for. But yet on the road to Damascus, what did God say? He said, "Saul, I love you. And I want you to be my apostle." Paul self-proclaimed, "I'm the chief of sinners, and yet Christ died even for me." So guys, I want to challenge you today that if you haven't made a commitment for Christ, make today be the day. Or maybe you've made that commitment for Christ in the past, but you're kind of at that point where I was going through, or just kind of doing it because it seems like the right thing to do. Make today be the day that you say, "Okay, God, I'm done faking. I want to live my whole life for you. I want people to see you when they look at me. I don't want to just be a part-time Christian that during chapel I raise my hand and sing, or at church I'm a good kid. But every day of the week, at school, at work, at home, I want to live for you every minute of the day." Put that stake in the ground that today is the day that I'm going to follow you 100%. I've said this quite a few times already, but we need to understand how important our choices are. Yes, and how they're going to affect us now, 5 years from now, that's important. But as I said before, newsflash, life isn't about us. Life isn't about any one individual out here. What is life about? Life is about serving God. And how do we serve God? But by serving those around us. Whatever you did for the least of these, you did for me. So the choices you're making, how are they affecting the person sitting next to you? How are they affecting your little brothers, little sisters, older brothers, older sisters, parents? Are you being a good role model or a bad role model? And more importantly than that, the choices you make, they represent your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. If you call yourself a Christian, if you've accepted Christ as your Savior, you believe that the only way that you can get to heaven is because of the grace that He gave us from dying on the cross, giving His life so that we could have life eternally. If you believe that and you've accepted that, and you call yourself a Christian, then how are your choices every day? Not just when it's easy, like I said before, but every day, how are your choices representing your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ? Is He standing there saying, "Yes, my son. That's my daughter." Or she's standing there with His arms open wide, saying, "I still love you. Please, choose me. I gave my life." How's He reacting to the choices that you're making every day? Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for this morning. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here in a school and say your name. Lord, I ask that every one of us this morning, that we heard something that we needed to hear. And for each one of us, it may be a different message. But Lord, I ask that we heard something and we hold on to it. We don't just hear it and let it go. But Lord, we hold fast to it. And say, I need to do that. That's me that He's talking about. So Lord, I ask this morning that the students out here, Lord, that today would be the day that stake goes in the ground. And they say from today forward, I'm going to live for you every step of the way. Lord, I love you. And Lord, thank you for allowing me to be your servant here. In Jesus' name, amen. So guys, I have some bracelets out back. They say choices on them. As Blake said, 4 choices stands for choosing Him over I. Changes every situation. I wanted something that we could have, that we could see every day as a reminder. Because I know had I heard a speaker, I would have remembered for a couple weeks, maybe a month at best, and it would have kind of gone away. So I wanted something that we could have as a constant reminder. So I want everyone to have a bracelet. They're out there on the table as you leave. Also, there's some little cards. At this point, I'm in the process of trying to write a book and have it published. And they're telling me that I need more likes on my Facebook, more following. So I have some cards out there that just says like my Facebook page. If you guys want to grab those on your way out. Do we want to I know we're past our time, do we want to open up for questions for a little bit, or?
Are there any immediate questions you guys have?
I'm an open book, you can't offend me, so any question you have is fine.
How's your relationship been with the family of the victim?
How's my relationship been with Mr. McEwen's family? Mr. McEwen had his sister that was 92 at the time this happened. They were the first 2 over from, I believe it was Ireland. Neither of them had kids, so he had the one sister. However, his family, he was a Jewish man, and his family were the people from the synagogue. And it was very rough. I wasn't able to write them any letters because of no contact order, stuff like that. The only chance that I ever got to say something to them. Was at the trial. The judge asked if there's anything that I wanted to say at the end of the trial. And at that point, I was able to stand up and tell them how sorry I was and that this was nothing that I would ever intend to do. But I know because of my actions, I killed Mr. McEwen. And the hard thing with Jewish beliefs, my understanding, the rabbi was trying to kind of explain this to me, but Jewish beliefs are God only forgives sins against God. So if I sin against you, you're the only one that can forgive me. So to the people at the synagogue, there's that religion barrier of I'm unforgivable, basically, because Mr. McEwen would be the one that needs to forgive me. So that's been one of the hardest things, was them seeing me in that snapshot picture of my life. And yeah, still to this day I get some emails and Facebook messages and stuff like that, just reminding me of Mr. McEwen and what happened that night. So yes.
What was the scariest part of this experience?
The scariest part of the experience. I don't know if I've had that. I think I'm going to answer it a couple different ways. One of the worst things was when my parents came in to visit me the first time when I was sitting in jail. And my dad is one of the strongest men I know, mentally, spiritually, physically, just a big man. And when he came in, he looked like a teddy bear that a kid had been dragging around for years. Just nothing left. Completely drained. And I know my mom was worse. However, she had the makeup, she covered up a little bit. But that was one of the hardest things for me to see. I guess the worst experience, the worst eye-opening experience for me was being in jail. And I'm sitting here talking about choices and how important our choices are. But being in jail, I had always thought, coming from small town Iowa, everyone in jail and prison, they deserve to be there. They've done all these bad things. That's where they belong. Well, I start connecting with these guys and hearing their story and how they were raised and the things that their parents, uncles had them do, go out on the corner at 8 years old and sell drugs. And I'm sitting there and it opened my eyes to the fact of how blessed I was as a kid who grew up in the family that I did. Because we all have a choice, but these guys and how they were raised, they didn't hardly stand a chance. And so that for me was a bit like, they were almost okay being in prison, a lot of them. Because they knew where their next meal was coming from, they knew that they had a bed. That was probably one of the hardest things for me to just understand, I guess. Yes?
How did your brother react when you told him you did all the responsible?
How did my brother react? That's been another really hard thing. My brother and I had a great relationship before all this happened. My brother's always been the black sheep of the family, so to speak. He'll try anything. He came up to help me celebrate. He didn't come up for Christmas, but a month and a half later, he came up to help me celebrate my 21st birthday. I wrote him 5 letters while I was in jail and prison, and each one I said, Corey, if you need to hear me say that I forgive you, I do. But I do not blame you for what happened that night. That was my choice to go out and drink. It was my decision. This is not your fault. So if you need to hear me say I forgive you, I do. But I do not blame you for this. And he never responded to any of my letters. So there is a lot of guilt in there. And since then, family get-togethers, we're all together. But it's just kind of surface talk. I start talking about that night and he'll just kind of derail it and go somewhere else with it. So he hasn't opened up. I mean, here Here about 3 months ago, he was talking to my parents, and he said, I think it's time that Curtis and I have a talk. And they, of course, encouraged him, but he still hasn't opened up yet. So, yeah, definitely, he can use a lot of prayer. He's still running from God. Yes? How did Mr. McEwen die? What happened? The best explanation that I have of what happened that night was going through trial, the judge, after getting in all the evidence, he kind of wrote a story of what he thinks happened. My apartment in Wilton was 503, apartment number 1. My buddy's house was 513. I went into 513 Van Buren, a half block away. In the front door, down a half flight of stairs, first apartment on the right. My apartment in Wilton was 503, apartment number 1. In the front door, down a half flight of stairs, first apartment on the right. Judge thinks I went there, I didn't have my keys, broke into the door, went back, my wallet was laying on the dresser next to the bed. My jeans were at the foot of the bed, like to take them off, step out of them. They're still just kind of sitting there. Socks were balled up on top of the jeans. My shirt was laying on the floor next to him. He thinks I went in there going to sleep. Mr. McEwen came, trying to wake me up, let me know I was in the wrong place. I, thinking I was being intruded on, grabbed him, punched him multiple times, and then I ended up leaving. In the meantime, Mr. McEwen, the judge thinks there's drops of blood that go out to the living room and then back to the bathroom where he sat on the toilet using the restroom, and the whole roll of toilet paper was taken off like 3 pieces at a time, like a lot of bloody nose, laid in the trash can. There's about 30 pieces in the trash can like that. However, when he got up from the toilet, he ended up falling between the toilet and the shower and couldn't get back up from there, so he ended up dying from choking on his blood. Ultimately, was the cause from the blunt force injury from me punching him. That's the best explanation that I have of what happened. I've prayed and prayed and prayed that God would show me what happened. And there's still been nothing that has come back. So that's the best explanation that I have of what happened, Mr. McEwen. Ultimately, the way I deal with it is I know no matter how it happened, because I made that original choice of saying, God, I don't need you. And I went and I gave myself to that alcohol. Because I made that choice, I was in Mr. McEwen's area, and because I was there, he died, one way or another. So it is my fault that Mr. McEwen died. Yes?
Do you still have ramifications, like the police record or whatever, today, and how did you meet your wife?
Do I still have consequences from what happened then, right now? There's quite a few different things. In Iowa, in the state of Iowa, anytime that there is a criminal death, it's automatic $150,000 fine. So I would have that I am continuing to pay on. You lose your rights your citizenship rights, having a felony on your record, so I can't vote. I hunted deer hunter, and I can't have a gun. I can't hunt with a gun anymore. I can bow hunt still, but I can't hunt with a gun anymore or own a gun. If I were to go in and get a job, try and get a job somewhere, I'd have to put felony on my record. It's hard to get a job with a felony on your record. So I have that. Thankfully, God has provided along the way, up to the point now I have my own construction company, I'm able to do my own work. So there's quite a few things, and still, even like I mentioned earlier, I get those messages every once in a while, just trying to break me down, I guess, is their idea. But I know who I am in Christ, and so I know that He's going to take care of me. Second question, how did I meet my wife? Well, I was in Rockwell City Prison, and I was part of a Bible study, and this lady came in, and she helped out with the Bible study, and I told her my story, and a couple of different times, I think, and then she went home and got on Facebook and looked up my parents and talked to my mom a little bit, I think, to make sure that my story lined up the way that I was actually telling it. But then she went to her daughter and she was like, "You got to meet this kid. There's just something different about him." She's like, "Mom, are you kidding me? You're talking about a guy in prison." Like, really? So she came in a couple of times, and at that point it was just kind of, "Hi, I'm Curtis. Hi, I'm Jordan." That was about it. I got out of prison about a year after I'd gotten out of prison. Jordan called. She worked for Hope Ministries in Des Moines, and she needed a chapel leader for one night. They had someone cancel, so she asked if I could come and speak. So I went to Hope Ministries, the homeless shelter, and spoke to the men there at Bethel Mission. And that night I stayed with her and her brother in Johnston. They had a house in Johnston that her brother had remodeled. And we stayed up till about 3 o'clock in the morning talking. About a week and a half later, we started dating. About a week and a half later, we knew we were going to get married. It took me 3 months to propose to her. Kind of slow. And then 11 months after we started dating, we got married. And that was 4.5 years ago almost now. And we have a 2.5-year-old. Yeah, 2.5-year-old and an 8-month-old back there now. So and along with that, I'm going to say this, that no matter what we've done in life, if we're willing to acknowledge the wrong we committed and ask God for forgiveness, and then start living in Him and for Him, He's going to bless us more than we can even imagine. And my wife, my kids, I mean, you guys probably seen coming in how beautiful they all are. So, yeah, just remember that. You give your life to Christ, He's going to take care of you. There may be hard times, but He's going to take care of you. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys again. Remember, there's bracelets out.